So, before we begin talking about the soul, I want to slow things down and take a step back. First, let me say something obvious but important. What I am laying out here is inspired by Aristotle and Aquinas, but it's ultimately my way of understanding their ideas. Having said that, let's begin. In the Aristotelian framework, the concept of life and the concept of soul are inseparable. You can't really understand one without the other. And life itself has a very specific place in the way Aristotle understood reality. So before we talk explicitly about the soul, we need to explore the broader metaphysical picture that makes the idea of the soul even make sense in the first place. Let's start by making something explicit that's probably already been implicit so far. According to Aristotle, everything you can see, imagine, or even think about is what he calls a substance. A substance is something that exists in its own right, and every substance, without exception, is composed of matter and form. Not sometimes, not most of the time, always. Matter is what something is made of. Form is what makes it the kind of thing that it is. This matter form structure is the basic metaphysical architecture of reality in Aristotle's universe. So if we want to understand what life is, this is where we have to begin. Now let's try a thought experiment. Earlier, we said that you never actually encounter matter without form. But what if you could? What if there was a substance made entirely of matter and no form at all? No organizing principle, no identity, no structure? What would it be? The answer is surprisingly simple. It wouldn't be anything. Pure matter, matter without form, would have no actuality, no nature, no identity. It would be nothing but pure potential, and something that is only potential with no actuality at all is not really something that exists. Philosophically speaking, pure matter is non-being. Now imagine reality as a kind of spectrum. On one end, you have pure matter, which again is really nothing. On the other end, you have pure form, and if pure matter is total passivity and non-being, then pure form, if it were possible, would be pure actuality, pure being, pure activity, and complete existence. We never encounter either extreme in real life. Nothing we experience is pure matter or pure form. But this spectrum is still incredibly useful because it helps us understand what happens as substances vary in how much form is doing the work. As the influence of form increases, in principle, a substance may move from non-being into being. At first, you get things that exist, but are largely passive. They can be acted upon, but they don't initiate activity from within themselves. Their actions are imposed from the outside. This describes inanimate objects, things like rocks. A rock exists, it has form, but it doesn't do anything on its own. Now, here's where something remarkable happens. If formal activity increases further, then also in principle, a substance may become capable of initiating activity from within itself. It doesn't just exist. It doesn't just react. It acts. In the Aristotelian and Thomistic tradition, this capacity for internal self-directed activity is the defining feature of life. And it's important to be clear here. When I say form acts, I don't mean it mechanically, as if form were pushing matter around like a hand on an object. Form is not an efficient cause. A better analogy would be software running on hardware or DNA organizing the development of a living organism. Form structures activity from within. It gives matter a direction, an organization, a way of behaving. So let's put it all together. Every substance is composed of matter and form. Matter is passive, form is active. As formal activity increases, a substance moves from non-being to mere existence to passive being and finally to something capable of acting from within. That final step, internal self-directed activity, is what we call life. And life arises not from adding extra matter, but from a new kind of form. This is where Aristotle and Aquinas begin to talk about the soul, not as a ghost, not as a thing floating inside your body, but as a form of the living body. And it's here, right here in the reality of life, that the concept of the soul first becomes intelligible. And that's where we'll go next. Well, thank you for watching, and as always, I will see you in the next video.